Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today's video is talking about my top 10 contemporary romance authors that I love and adore, and my favorite book from that author. So I've thought this would be an interesting list to put together. I did part of this on Instagram already where I just listed them, but now I'm going to be talking to you about why I love these books. And I really thought that I was going to have a harder time narrowing it down, but some of the stipulations I had for the authors that I chose, I had to have read a lot of their backlist, if not all of it, and I had to have liked a lot of their backlist, if not all of it. Now there are one or two exceptions here from authors who just have extensive backlists, but I have still really loved everything that I've read from them. So I have a lot of other contemporary romance authors where I've loved maybe one or two of their books and I've read more that I haven't loved, and then I have other contemporary romance authors that I've maybe just tried the first one and loved it and I haven't tried any of their other ones, whether they're a debut author or I just haven't gotten to their backlist yet. So these are authors that I have read a lot of their books and I have loved almost all of them. So now, of course, we're gonna get right into it. And this list would not be complete without Kennedy Ryan, who is my all-time favorite contemporary romance author and one of my favorite authors of all time, period, no matter what genre she writes. Now, when I made this Instagram graphic, I went with Real, which is one of my favorite books by Kennedy Ryan, because I didn't want to include books in a series, even though I actually did include a book in a series that you have to read a lot more books to get to. But if I have to say what my favorite book by Kennedy Ryan is, it's the Grip trilogy. So there are those 3 books. That is still my all-time favorite series of books by her. But when I started this list, I just kind of was thinking about books I could recommend to people that maybe they hadn't tried this author, maybe they were new to her or something like that. And one of the main things that inspired me to do that is I've found some friends in a friend group on TikTok, and a lot of them are fantasy readers and they're reading other genres and they're kind of new to romance, and so a lot of times what they're doing, which is they're picking the authors that are really popular, like Abby Jimenez or Emily Henry, and they're wonderful. I have an Abby Jimenez book here that I'm going to be talking about in a minute, but I kind of wanted to introduce them to maybe some more diverse and really, really excellent romance authors that are indie too, because I feel like a lot of their association with indie romance is something like Haunting Adeline, which has a very specific audience, and it is definitely not for everyone, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's one of the reasons, one of my thought processes towards making this video. So Real is one that I think is very easy to recommend to somebody who likes an Emily Henry type of book, because it is a standalone, it's a very emotionally powerful book, and it's so romantic, and I think this book is a really perfect example of Kennedy Ryan's power and gift and talent and just amazingness with writing, and specifically with writing romance. So a lot of the books I'm going to be mentioning are books I've mentioned in years past, so we're going to quickly go over what the synopsis is and why I love them so much. So Real is following our heroine, who is an actress and a dancer, and she is on Broadway at the time when our hero, who is the director of a biopic film highlighting, Black artists of the 1920s in Harlem, he sees her on stage and he immediately wants to cast her as the lead in his new film about Desi Blue. So that's how they meet, and that's how the relationship begins. There are a lot of other things that happen in this story, things that go way beyond the surface of an actor and director romance, and things that go way beyond the surface of a Hollywood type of romance. You get to see flashbacks to the biopic film of Desi Blue and see things that are happening there. And our heroine, Neva, she goes through so much in this book, and Cannon, our hero, he is right there with her the whole way through. She has a chronic illness that's a major factor in this book. It changes her life, and watching him really just always continuously be there for her, not in any way that is begrudging, he is enthusiastically there for her on her journey to health and healing, and he does whatever possible to make her life easier, and it's just so evident how much he loves her, and that's something that's why she will always be at the top of my list, Kennedy Ryan. There has never been a book from her that I have read that I have felt like she really didn't capture the feeling of romance here. She captures so beautifully the feeling of being loved for who you are in this moment. You yourself, no change is necessary. Even, and I think this book is a really great example of that, even if things change about maybe your physical appearance, or things change about your ability to do things and to function normally, to see this man, like I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it, to see him stay by her side, enthusiastically being by her side, wanting to be there, choosing her over anyone else, it's what romance, what love is made of, and I think it's just so beautifully captured here. So, you know, the Grip trilogy has my whole heart, but this has my whole heart for another reason, and I picked this for the video, although honestly, you can't go wrong with any of Kennedy's books, but this one, I feel like I so desperately want more people to read, and specifically people who are new to romance or who are new to Kennedy Ryan. Like, this book is gonna change your life, I promise you. Okay, so now the next book, I said I was going to mention an Abby Jimenez, and I am, because I think that she is a fantastic romance author, and she really is one of my favorites. So I have Part of Your World here. This is my favorite book by Abby Jimenez. Now, Abby's books have so much going for them, so much appeal to people who are romance readers. She hits all of the tropes and the things that romance readers that we want in a book, but she also has such a broad appeal to anybody else, and I think that is one reason why she's so popular. She really captures the feeling of falling in love and all of the, like, the insecurity and the self-doubt and maybe the funny things and the weird things that happen in a way that is both, like, humorous and heartwarming and really just kind of gets you right in the center. She's so good at that. I love her heroes, who are such good, earnest men who really are trying so hard to find love, and most of the time are just unlucky or haven't found the right person. And I really love her heroines too, who are usually typically struggling with some things and trying to overcome them to accept this love, this wonderful man that's fallen into their life. So this book is just a personal favorite. It's a little bit of an age gap. She's 10 years older than he is. She is an ER doctor, and her parents are kind of pushing her to be like this world-class surgeon to follow in their legacy, you know, and she doesn't really want to. She just wants to be an ER doctor. She's also going through a divorce, and this was sort of like a golden pairing, this ultimate, you know, marriage between the two of them, uniting both two powerful doctors in their field. But he was very abusive with her, and emotionally and mentally, and she's really recovering from the wounds that all of the years of that abuse have left on her. And so she at times can appear a little broken, and that definitely affects how she moves forward in the world and how she moves forward in love and any opportunity that she has for love. So she ends up in this very small town where she meets Daniel, who is a carpenter, and he's 10 years younger than her. They have a one-night stand, and then they part ways, and he can't stop thinking about her, and she can't stop thinking about them, and then the rest of the book is them trying to figure out how they can be together and how they can make this love work that feels different and more than just a one-night stand. Like, it has the potential for more. So I love Abby Jimenez's humor. I love how heartfelt her books are. I love how it never feels like cheesy or tropey or anything like that. It just feels so real and just like the ultimate reading experience. I just love her books so much, and this one is for sure my favorite. Okay, the next book that I want to talk about is my new favorite from this author, and it is King of Greed by Anna Huang. Anna Huang has been a favorite author of mine from the minute I read Twisted Love. I think the first book in the Twisted series. I saw it going around a little bit, and I was like, I have to read that. That sounds amazing. I picked it up, fell in love with her books, and I have loved every single book that she has written, seriously, since then. But King of Greed is definitely my favorite. It hits on a few of my very favorite, very personal things. This is a second chance romance. We have this couple who met in college. They fell deeply in love, and we have Alessandra, who really, you know, she stood by him. She helped him build his career. She helped him become the man that he is today. They end up getting married, and he ends up being this extremely powerful man, this very wealthy, successful businessman who is really very focused on his career and his work. Like, that is kind of the most important thing to him. And he, in doing so, in progressing his career and putting that first, he lets Alessandra, you know, sort of fall by the wayside till there's one fateful moment when they have an anniversary when she was going to give him one last chance, and he forgets, and he doesn't show up, and she leaves. She leaves him, and that is when he has this realization of everything that he lost with her, this great love, this woman who was by his side the whole time, how she was always there for him, always next to him. You know, he thought he had the perfect life, and then all of a sudden he realized realizes that he wasn't doing a great job as a husband, like not even at all. So it's such a beautiful story of, we get to see some flashbacks from when they fell in love in college, and then we get to see them, you know, trying to repair in the future, and I loved this so much. This is my favorite Anna Huang romance. It is so swoony, so romantic, such great storytelling, excellent hero who really has to work to earn back the heroine, and she is just such a wonderful woman. I love her as a character, and I just adored this book so much. It's one of my personal favorites, one of my all-time favorite books. I loved it with my whole heart, and Anna Huang, one of my favorite contemporary romance authors ever. I'm gonna read everything that she writes. I just love and adore her. Okay, so now the next book that I want to talk about, the next author, is Christina C. Jones. Christina C. Jones, I feel like, has some amount of hype, but in my opinion, for the quality of writer that she is and for how prolific she is, she deserves way more hype. She is incredible. In fact, I don't even see people really talking about her anymore, and I know she just had a recent release. I love her, and maybe I'm just not paying attention, that very well could be, but I think that she is fantastic. I have read many of her books, and I have loved every single one of them. She does write a lot of novellas too, which kind of aren't my favorite, but she just is such a gifted writer. Her way with words is so compelling. Every time I start one of her books, I am immediately sucked in. I can't stop reading. I love these characters. I want to see what's happening. I love the swooniness she puts in there. I love the family situations. I love her plots. I think there's always some element of creativity that makes her books really stand apart from a typical contemporary romance. And my favorite book of hers is Equivalent Exchange. This book is so freaking good. I love it. This book starts with our couple having a one-night stand, and they think that's going to be all that it is, but obviously they end up having feelings for one another, like a lot of deep feelings. They keep running into each other, and there's a soulmate aspect of this book that is so unique and is so clever. This book just wowed me. I love this couple. I love the whole setting. This is the first in a series, so you get different spin-offs at the same bar. We see this couple pop up back in the other books that are, you know, in the future. And I just loved and adored this. I think she has a really good blend of that first initial meeting where they have some chemistry and where they have maybe some feelings, and then the way that she's able to grow that relationship from the very beginning that feels very realistic and feels very natural and feels just like you're watching a movie or you could be experiencing this. Like, it is just so beautiful. I love her book so much, and I need more people to read her because she's fantastic. Okay, so now this next author, I have read a lot of her books and I have loved pretty much all of them. I think she's a very gifted storyteller. I haven't read any of her new released stuff. I kind of stopped reading her after the, I can't remember which book it was, but I haven't read her most recent, like 2 or 3 releases, but I love Sophie Lark. She's one of my favorite authors. I think she is such a good author, and she does such a good job of creating fun, very real feeling characters and very real feeling situations, even though you're dealing with things that are like not realistic at all. Like, this is mafia children that go to this mafia school, kind of like Hogwarts, you know, and it's so fun and so unique. I just really love, she has great dialogue, she has great chemistry, she has great emotional connections, and she really puts her characters through some difficult situations. Like, she's not afraid to put her characters in painful situations and have them work their way out. And in my opinion, I think she does a really good job of making sure that the HEA makes all of the pain worthwhile. So I picked The Spy, which is the most emotionally resonant with me, but I could have also very well picked Stolen Heir, which you could read as a standalone, because the unfortunate thing about picking The Spy is you can't read this as a standalone. You have to read, you know, at least 5 other books before you get to this one. So, like, it's a little bit of a stretch, but I feel like most people, you know, Sophie Lark isn't necessarily talked about a lot anymore. I know Jen was really the one who kind of got all of us to read her in the first place, and she definitely was the one who influenced me to pick her up. But Sophie is amazing. I think she's a great storyteller, and she really does a good job of building romances that feel very real and that feel very present, and very tactile experience of writing her romances. Like, it feels like you're feeling things right along with the character, and that doesn't always happen, I don't feel like. So The Spy is the culmination of a lot of books where we finally get some answers revealed, and it was just like both heartbreaking and like heart fulfilling. Everything about it was just wonderful. But again, if you are new to Sophie Lark and you don't want to read the 5 books to get to The Spy, highly recommend Stolen Heir It's fantastic. Mafia romance, ballerina, tattooed guy. You can't go wrong with that, right? Okay, so another author that I feel like is a favorite of mine is definitely Devney Perry. Now, I've read a lot of Devney Perry's books. She's got a pretty extensive backlist as well. I haven't read all, that's for sure. But I just love her. I love her writing style. I think that she does a really good job of getting you into the story quickly and making you feel at home there and making you feel a connection with the characters. That's something that always gets me invested in the story and makes me want to keep reading, and I think Devney does a really good job of getting you to connect with the characters right off the bat, whether that's through something about their situation that's relatable, that you can kind of feel like, oh yeah, I've experienced that before, I've felt that before, or whether that's through something dramatic, some type of experience that has you like, what is going to happen next, you know? So this is part of her Clifton Forge series. I can't remember which book this is, maybe, I think it's early on in the series, but Riven Night is about our heroine who ends up, you know, under the protection of one of the men of the motorcycle club, Isaiah. And Isaiah is a man who is going to protect her, and he also has like some dents in his armor. He's the Riven Knight. He's not a perfect man. He's very damaged, but he is going to go to the ends of the earth to protect her. And I just really, really love a protective hero. This book really spoke to me with the way that he was so damaged and also just so heartfelt in the way their romance was developed. And I just loved it. I love the series. It is very much a comfort read series for me. It's just so entertaining and so fun and so romantic. And I think Devney Perry is, you know, she is at the top of my list for go-to authors when I know I need to pick up a book that I'm going to be able to get swept away in. She will do that for me every single time. So I love Devney Perry. This is my favorite series of hers. Do recommend reading this series in order. It's been out for a while, so most of you all have probably read it. Okay, so now another author that I really do enjoy is Elsie Silver. Now, Elsie Silver and I have had a bit of a rocky past because I have loved some of her books and I have hated some of her books. So we're only going to be talking about the books that I've loved from her, and the one that I loved the most recently is Wilde Love. This is her most recent contemporary romance. It's the beginning of a new series. It's the spin-off, kind of a spin-off, where you have some characters who are related from her Chestnut Spring series, I think that's what it's called. But this one was just so fun and so heartwarming, and this reminded me why I love this author so much. She is so good at creating situations to have our characters be in that are very clearly like romance reasons. They're created for the story, but they don't feel like that. It feels like, oh yeah, that totally could happen, and look, now they're gonna fall in love. Like, I just love that so much. I think that an author's ability to put you in a situation like that where it feels like, okay, I know why you did this, but it doesn't feel like that's why we're here, you know? So this features some childhood sweethearts who, you know, they weren't necessarily sweethearts. They had feelings for each other, but they thought it was maybe not reciprocated. And then, you know, he was her brother's best friend, and then they went their separate ways. They grew up, they did their own things. She ends up, after being like assaulted at her job, losing her job, coming back to this small town, and that's where she runs into our hero, who is the son of this music mogul and has this huge recording business, who also has had his sperm donor baby just show up on his front porch. So this book had so many elements that I love. The family element, it has the romantic element, it has great characters, it has a wonderful setting. It just feels like such a fun, good read. And I love that about Elsie. I love her banter. I love her romances. I think they're swoony. I think they're great. I loved this one. I thought it was so fun. And, you know, Flawless and Heartless, I also highly recommend. And then her series before that, I think the Gold Rush Ranch series, I really liked that series too. So she's a fabulous author, and I'm very excited to continue in this series. I really hope that it continues in this vein because I enjoyed this one a lot. Okay, so now another author that I love and adore is Carian Cole. Carian Cole is kind of known for her age gap romances, and a lot of times that doesn't work for me. I will say most of the time that doesn't work for me, because Carian Cole will typically do an older hero and a much younger heroine, like much younger. And honestly, that's almost always like a nope, don't want it, I don't like it, it's gross, I hate it. But Carian Cole makes it work for me, like she really truly does. So the book that I picked was Don't Kiss the Bride, which I also love Torn and Tied by her. Those are favorites of mine. But I picked Don't Kiss the Bride because there was something specific about this book that just really gets to my heart. And I think it's all about sort of the way the hero is very heroic and how he puts the heroine first and how he goes out of his way to protect her and how he's so concerned with her. Like, I love that about heroes. I love when they're very protective and when they're very concerned with the heroine and they want to make sure she's safe and taken care of. And that was this guy 100%. So when the book opens, she's like 17 years old. She's in high school. Her mother is a hoarder. She's not in a good situation at home and she needs to go to school. She has a hard time getting out of the house. She doesn't want people to know that she's in there. And it ends up being a marriage of convenience between this construction worker guy who learns about her situation at home and he wants to protect her and save her and help her get health insurance so she can get her medical issues taken care of. And it was just so beautiful. It was such a slow build romance. And even though she was 17, like, she is legal by the time they actually end up getting married. She graduates high school. But again, like, usually that's a no for me. Like, I hate a barely legal heroine. Like, I do, especially with a much older guy. But I don't know what to tell you. Carian makes it really work for me. So this is another example of a trope that I hate with an author that I love. And I love this book. I thought it was beautifully romantic. I thought it was very realistic and very gritty. And I just freaking loved it. So yeah. Carian, I love her. Okay, another author is one that is probably the author I have loved for the longest on here, and that is Brittainy C. I love Brittainy C. I think she is so fantastic. I love her romances so much. I very vividly remember finding her. I didn't like find her, I'd heard about her for a while, but finally diving into her backlist in 2020 during COVID, I would listen to her audiobooks when I was walking, you know, just to get out of the house, and I just fell in love with all of her books, and I binged so many of them because I was like, this is exactly what I want in romance. She just gets it. They're very emotional. They're very heartfelt. They are very beautiful stories. I just love her so much. I picked Eleanor in Grey, which is an older one, but it's one of my personal favorites. It has a lot of my favorite things. We have childhood sweethearts. They were close friends and they were falling in love, and then some tragic circumstances separated them. They go their separate ways. Many years pass. The heroine comes back into the hero's life, not really realizing that's who he is, as the nanny to his children because he is now a widower, and that's how they fall in love. So this book is emotional and heartfelt and just very grumpy hero who is very reluctant to fall in love with her, and it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. This remains one of my favorite romances ever. I love it so much. And this author is incredible, so highly, highly recommend her. Now, the last author that I want to talk about today is kind of a newer author to me, and I haven't read her entire backlist, but she's also doesn't have an extensive backlist. I have read 2 of her books, and I'm currently reading a 3rd one right now, and that is Liz Tomforde. So The Right Move is one of the most romantic books that I've ever read in my life. I think it is beautiful in pretty much every way. It is so swoony. I feel like if you are looking for a book to make you fall in love with romance again, you have got to read this book. If you haven't already, this really kind of took BookTube by storm about 1.5 years ago, and I just remember reading this and being like, yes, this is what I want all romances to be. It's so beautiful. This man goes to such lengths to show his love, to take care of her, little tiny gestures, making her coffee, you know, getting her food, taking care of her, protecting her, like, it's just so beautiful. So this is about Indy, who recently had a breakup, a pretty bad one, and she needs a place to live. She's like a flight attendant for a hockey team, and her friend, who is the sister of the hero in this book, is like, you could stay with my brother. He's an NBA star. He's super duper famous, very well known. And Indy is sort of like, I don't know about that. But they end up moving in together. You know, Ryan lets her move in, and they start out not really being friends, just acquaintances, and then they develop a friendship, and then they fall in love. All the while, they have this simmering attraction there between the two of them. And it's just so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. One of the best romances I think that I've read in a really, 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 really long time. I just adored it, and I look forward to every release this author has, so. Alright, my friends, there you have it. Those are the top 10 contemporary romance authors that I love and my favorite book from them. Please let me know who your favorite contemporary romance author is and a book that you think I should check out. And I'll see y'all in my next video.